Assistant Professor at the Tehran Polytechnic University and co-founder of GPTT, a think tank. Dr. Emamian is joining us here at Times Now. Thank you, Dr. Emamian, for joining in. In your understanding, what is driving the current tensions between the United States and Iran?
Regarding the main drivers of escalatory tension between Iran and U.S., I would like to point out four important drivers based on my understanding. The first one is very deep distrust on U.S. From the Iranian point of view. Besides several decades of the hostilities and sanctions and hybrid warfare against Iran by U.S. Last few years, we have experienced very important, strange occasions of betrayal to diplomacy. In 2018, it was President Trump that withdrew from JCPOA. Then, in last year, twice, while negotiations were going on between Iran and U.S., first in June 13 last year, and then February 28th this year. U.S. jointly with Israelis attacked Iran unprovokedly while there was just around the table of the negotiation with Iran. So it was a very clear, classical example of betrayal to diplomacy. So the deep distrust is very important. Second, it is a sabotage, particularly Israeli sabotage, that since the day one of the MOU, they have not been satisfied with it, and they have tried to make it a failure. The first point of the MOU is ceasefire in all fronts, including Lebanon, and Israelis have tried to make it a failure by escalating hugely in Lebanon. And if you remember, even they attacked Beirut, Dahia, during that period of time. And everyone knows that the Israelis lobby in DC and their blackmailing of US politics is also very important. The third point, I think, kind of the struggle amongst the inner circle of the Trump. J.D. Vance and Steve Witkoff, they have been always in support of the MOU, but at the same time, Hegseth and Rubio and Israeli first part of the Trump's inner circle, they have been always against the MOU. And with regards to the Lebanese case, we have experienced two contradictory and incompatible MOUs that have been signed between US and Iran, and then a few days later between Lebanon and Israelis mediated by Mark Rubio. So it seems that such kind of the domestic struggle amongst the US inner circle has been very important. And last but not least was, I think it derived from such kind of the ambiguities among the texts that I'm not going to go into details of it.
So, Dr. Emamian, what explains the current tensions? Is it misunderstandings over paragraph 5 in the MOU, or is it misinterpretation when it comes to, say, the overall authority and administration of the Strait of Hormuz?
With regards to the dispute over the strait, over the point 5 of the MOU, I won't call it a misunderstanding. I think it is a very deliberate struggle over the control and governance of the Strait of the Hormuz. So Iranians are thinking that based on the point 5, they have all their right to govern the strait based on their own arrangements. And this is something has been clearly mentioned in the point 5. And the rationale and justification behind it is very clear. Iran has been attacked by the war on aggression imposed by US and Israelis from using the territories of some neighbors in Persian Gulf. And Iranians have been very clear during the negotiation prior to MOU to have such a point in the MOU recognizing their right for arranging the free passage and freedom of navigation in the Strait of the Hormuz based on the Iranian regulation and arrangement, because they are going to be sure that the Strait of the Hormuz won't be used again for military buildup against the Iranian national security. This is a very defensive, understandable rationale. But at the same time, Americans are going to push for an alternative route, opening up their hand for dismissing Iranian arrangements and to have such kind of the open option for military rebuild-up in the region. So this is a very clear, deliberate struggle. I'm not going to call it a misunderstanding. But from my point of view, the Iranian understanding of the point 5 of MOU is very much adapted and very much accurate with regards to the text as it is. And their defensive rationale, whilst we are just 4 months away from the war on aggression that has been imposed on Iran from February 28th until now, the Iranian defensive rationale is very much defendable and understandable. But at the end of the day, this is a very practical struggle between Iran and US to shape the future of the governance of the Strait of the Hormuz once this 60-day period is over.
Okay, so Dr. Emamian, ever since the collapse of the MOU, we've seen that Iran is back to targeting US allies in West Asia, whether it is Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait, Jordan, Oman. What's surprising is that those very countries which have been mediating between the United States and Iran are also getting targeted. What are going to be the wider implications for the region and, of course, for the global economy as well?
With regards to Iranian retaliatory attack to the U.S. bases across the region, particularly those bases that are based within the territory of Iranian neighbors in Persian Gulf. Iran has been clear since the beginning that this is the first basic self-defense right of the country to retaliate to the main source of the threat to national security. So Iranians have been clear since the day one that they are going to retaliate regionally to all the U.S. bases and facilities that have been used since February 28th to attack Iran. This is not an attack to the neighboring countries, but at the same time, this is the fault of our neighboring countries that they have provided their territory as a basis for the aggressor, the American forces, to use those bases attacking Iranian sovereignty and territorial integrity. So, based on all international rules, this is the Iranian basic right to self-defense, to retaliate to the source of the attack. But with regards to the wider implication, I think this is the time for Iranian Arab neighbors around the Persian Gulf to rethink about their security policies. They have, almost all of them, they have invited US bases in their territory to safeguard their security. There was an idea of US security umbrella for those kind of the countries in the region. But it has resulted completely contradictory. And it has been very counterproductive in this regard, because not only U.S. never securitized and never guaranteed their national security, also the U.S. aggression on Iran has brought in a war, an unwanted war, into their territory. So this is the time for them to rethink about the prospect of the regional security architecture that needs to be very much domestic, indigenous, and to some extent autonomous. That means the time for security umbrella of the U.S. in the region, it seems that is practically over. And based on what those kind of the countries have experienced during the war since February 28th, they should have come to such a conclusion.
Right. So, Dr. Emamian, in the latest round of fighting, we've seen that the United States the explanation coming in from the U.S. forces with regards to the targeting of all of southern Iran is that they are degrading Iran's military capabilities. Can the United States actually degrade Iran's military capability by targeting just a few islands in southern Iran? And what will this mean for, say, the Strait of Hormuz? Can it deter the IRGC?
Regarding the U.S. ability to weaken or eradicate Iranian ability to govern the navigation of the Strait of throughout the Strait of the Hormuz, I think it has been clear, not now, almost since February 28th, that there is no military solution for U.S. to withdraw Iranian authority over the strait. It would be very easy target for Iranians to disrupt navigation and to block the Strait of the Hormuz militarily. But the only possibility is a kind of the mutual agreement between Iran and U.S. That has already been mentioned in the point 5 of the MOU, to make sure that Iran would be the main guarantor, safeguarding navigation of freedom of navigation from the Strait of the Hormuz based on its own arrangements. So there is no chance for the Strait of the Hormuz to go back to pure order. And this is the reality that U.S. needs to comply with.
So, Dr. Emamian, my last question. On Saturday, we've seen both the foreign ministers of Oman and Iran have a meeting in which they discussed the administration and control over the Strait of Hormuz, even the fee that will be levied on all the vessels that will be passing by. So, what are the key sticking points when it comes to this proposition where Iran is even willing to split the fee with Oman? What are the concerns?
As an academic, I never been involved in the negotiation, particularly with regards to the last meeting that took place Saturday between Iran and Oman. But based on analysis that I have seen and some news I have heard from that negotiation, the main Iranian concern were not about the tolling or the share of the Iranians out of strait revenues. Of course, in any arrangements, there would be some service fees for our security and logistical and navigatory services that would be provided by Iran and Oman. But the main Iranian concerns were and is that Iran needs to make sure that the Strait of the Hormuz won't be used against the Iranian national security anytime more. That means every passage from the strait needs to be based on the Iranian arrangement. And Iranians have the basic right of self-defense based on the innocent passage protocol to make sure that their national security won't be threatened by the military passage from the state. So while Omanis have proposed such kind of the shared governance over the state, but because there is huge technical ambiguities on the way of a kind of the shared governance, and it is against the content of the point 5 of the text that has provided the right for Iranian only exclusive arrangements to be implemented during the 60 days period of transitional period. And of course, there would be some chance for negotiation for longer term arrangements. But for now, Iran has the whole right to implement its own arrangement based on the point 5 of MOU. So it seems that it has been the main source of the disagreements, if I may call it, during the negotiation in last Saturday. So it seems that Oman needs to provide such kind of the assurance to Iranians that any proposal would safeguard Iranian national security and won't allow some kind of the military buildup that we have experienced prior to February 28th, anytime more.
All right. Dr. Emamian, thank you so much for joining us on Times Now with your precious insights. We thoroughly appreciate those invaluable information that you've shared with us. Thank you so much.